move home, and we're talking about Bidvest. And why we're talking about Bidvest is because it owns McCarthy Motor Retail.
Exactly. So that's not a huge part of the business. The financial services generally, and all the other stuff related to catering and security and so on are larger. But it does have that chunky business in there that Brian Joffrey acquired back in the day. Remember though, this is now Bidvest post the split with Bidcorp, which is the food services business.
So
which is
market
totally
cap of this entity is sitting at 56 billion rand. It's got a dividend yield of 4.3% and a price to earnings ratio of 15.9. And Lindsay Rolfe at the helm of this entity.
So this is a much more domestically focused business, largely business services. It still does freight, which is a big part of it. And I guess given that it's half or less than half of the previous Bidvest, the car dealership, including Birchmore's, the auction operation, is a bigger part of the South African business. They also do have Bidvest Namibia, so they're a bit exposed to fishing as well. So an interesting group as it stands.
Let's have a look at the share price graph.
Look, I don't know what they do with the share price, but the split, which is where that bounce happens, was very, very favorable for this part of the business. You've done much better if you bought or held on to this one or focused on this one only than you would have if you went the Bidcorp route, which is what we did.
We went the Bidcorp route.
We went the Bidcorp route. It was before
Rowan,
we did our
where did you get caught on this one?
No, we liked the South African entity. Bidcorp always looked expensive, and I guess the rand was weak, and so yeah, that's been a big headwind, obviously, the strengthening rand for foreign earnings.
Why didn't you take advice from Rowan on
well,
which
I don't know.
side
I mean,
of the
the South
coin to
African
go?
economy looked weak. Some of the parts of the business didn't look all that tremendous, like this part, because this is the first moment we've had to talk about South African vehicle sales. Those have been rotten, really, really rotten.
Why? Because the consumer is in trouble. Do we agree on that
those
point?
Purchases of very high, cars are expensive. There's finance available, but people are reluctant to take it. So,
So, Rowan, given the health of the South African consumer, is the upside done on the stock, and would you potentially be bailing?
Well, it's certainly got a lot more expensive. The rating now at around 16 is actually fairly demanding. They did come with the most recent trading update, which actually is the first sort of new numbers as a standalone entity, waiting for the results next week. But HEP's only up around 5%, and I think that gives you an indication, yes, of the pressure that the South African consumer economy is under and sort of struggling to grow, no growth in real terms. So yeah, it does look quite expensive.
Are you already out of this one, or are you holding your position?
No, I think we're out now, yeah. So it has shown some near-term weakness against some of the other stocks, but yeah, it's got very full.
And if, just quickly, if you did own Bidcorp, what would you be doing with it?
So Bidcorp, I think the underlying operation's excellent. Strong operations in Europe, and they continue to annualize some acquisitions and bed those down, and very focused. It remains a potential acquisition target, which always kept people interesting. Becomes more, I guess, your view on the rand, because you explicitly are taking a view. They are across a few currencies, but the rand, as a South African investor, is a major factor.
Sorry, I had to get his opinion on Bidcorp.
Look, I sometimes wonder if people are not aware that Bidcorp was taken out of this thing, and then they see, wow, this thing's trading at 164. It used to be at 300. This is a buy. I don't know whether other people are like, but when the results come out, they don't seem to me to justify the level at which the share price is trading.
And as Rowan said, he's already out of Bidvest.
They have, though, got stakes in Adcock Ingram, which has been going up. Comair's done okay recently, so that's resulted in some write-ups, write-downs.
Yeah, but Adcock Ingram, although they own 34% of it,
the real
they don't
core
really
is
want
whether
it,
the stationery business and the services business and the security business and the retail and the logistics and the transport and the cars and all that add up to a compelling result. I'm not saying
did you not hear the discussion about the South African consumer, the beleaguered South African consumer?
Yeah, but we've always heard about that. These businesses seem to sail on regardless.
Yeah, I think it is somewhat defensive. It's more broadly diversified. So it's a mixture of services sector and sort of business services. So it's been quite resilient, I think. And if you believe the South African economy is actually troughed, which I think there is some confidence that it has and will improve from here, this is a play, a broad-based industrial play on South African economy.
But at a 16 PE, it's expensive.
No,
it's got to come back, and then maybe you can buy in again. Hot or not?
Yeah, so at these levels, not.
Not hot.
Yeah, I've got to shade it. You've got to hand it to them. They've done well, but I'm going to go not hot as well.